What's up everyone, Evgeny Genchev here, and this is Sweet Struggle. Today joining me for a talk is GRETA SALÓME, who is an Icelandic singer, songwriter and violinist. She has toured the world and actually has represented her country with her own songs twice on the Eurovision contest. That was in 2012 and 2016. She has quite a unique style of mixing the singing with the violin and also utilizing some pop and folk influences, and obviously utilizing her classical upbringing. Besides her solo career, she has also been busy with lots of educational projects and is the concert master of the North Iceland Symphony Orchestra. Personally, I know her as someone who is even a bigger gym rat than I am, so I'm excited to talk to her about that too. Now let's see if she's already here. Hello Greta, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me, and where are you at the moment?
I'm actually at home, well, like most people probably.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for the people, that's in Iceland, in Reykjavik.
Yeah, that's in Iceland. I live just outside of Reykjavik, like 5 minutes away from the capital. So yeah, Iceland.
That's awesome. I've never been, but I actually was scheduled to go there in July, but I guess that's not happening. Yeah, it got cancelled.
Oh, well, I'm shocked.
Surprise.
I know,
but it would have
right?
been awesome. Like I was actually planning to hopefully record this while I'm there, because it was supposed to be like in 3-4 weeks, but yeah. Now we've got Zoom for this.
Next time, for sure.
For sure,
and we'll do a concert as well, not just a podcast.
That would be awesome. Yeah. But how have you been handling the quarantine? I've been seeing that also you do plenty of home workouts, which is something that I couldn't brace myself to do as much, unfortunately.
Well, I've been pretty blessed to have some equipment here at home. So I had like a barbell and then some dumbbells, kettlebells and stuff like that. And so yeah, this quarantine time has been both insanely tough mentally, but at the same time it's been so rewarding and so kind of just awakening, I think, for me. I've been touring and performing for so many years non-stop, and the speed has been, it's just been, in retrospect, it's just been pretty insane. I just literally have not stopped for years, and to have someone just come in and kind of push this force quit button on your life, it's strange. The good thing about this is that I suffer from a great, what should I say? I have a very severe case of FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So, under normal circumstances, if I could not do what I do usually, which is, to tour and to perform, I would have the biggest FOMO right now, because I would know that, everyone else is like performing, but that's not the case. Nobody is. So this is like, so I would definitely not say that COVID has been, a good thing for me, but it has definitely, taken this situation and turning it into something good, and really kind of just going back to the essence of what I do and what I am, having the time to really think about that and work on myself as a person, as an artist, on my skill, on my physical strength and health, my mental health. It's been refreshing, to be honest.
I've seen this actually for many people, and this is, as you said yourself, like there's so much going on. Normally there's such a busy schedule for everyone, and you've been touring like crazy. That what I've seen, like jumping from one place to the other, and now hitting the hard reset button basically, and you just are forced to go into this because basically there is no other way around it. And
Exactly.
but then you find out that it's like a blessing in disguise, because actually you can find this sense of stillness and just really dig in a bit deeper on a personal level, like the self-development, and really kind of recalibrate yourself and find yourself, which is amazing. And I think it's been the blessing in disguise for a lot of people, that now we're here, we need to utilize the time in the best possible way. And obviously there is a lot of discomfort, because if there is a lot of talk in your mind, a lot of thoughts and negative stuff, like when you're on the run, you don't need to deal with it because you keep yourself busy. But now that you're alone in the house or with whoever you are, everything comes out and you're forced to deal with it. So obviously in not all cases would be easy, but at the same time I think it's in a way healing during this crisis of disease. It's a healing thing for the inner self, let's say, if we can take this away from it and utilize it further when things resume to some kind of a normal, that would be amazing.
For sure. Yeah,
it's great that people have used it. I was actually also doing this. I don't know if you saw this Swiss Struggle Challenge, the 14-day challenge, where I was telling to people, okay, now that you're stuck at home, let's utilize it to the fullest, because obviously you might go into a couch potato mode, which obviously you haven't. Definitely. You've proven it in every story that you post, keeping it active.
I don't function as a couch potato. I cannot even, and I'm not saying that in a braggy way. I don't mean this as I just love to work. But the thing is that I cannot even sit down to watch a Netflix show for 20 minutes. My skin itches. I just want to do something.
That's awesome.
So I think it's I think, sometimes I would love a little bit of a healthier ratio between restlessness and then, peace. But, I think it's both. I think it's definitely going to be my downfall, but I think it's my greatest strength as well.
As long as you turn it to your advantage, I think it's great. Lately, I've actually not watched almost any film for quite a while as well. Going to cinema pre-COVID, let's say, was something maybe once in a few months, because it's I'm getting up super early to do my things, and then it's always until you still got energy, you still push what you can do in the day. Okay, now I'm done. Okay, it's now 8:30 in the evening. I've got up at 5 or 5:30. Okay, now I think I can still hit the gym. They open until 10:30. Now after you're done, okay, maybe I've got still some energy to edit some video, or maybe read something or answer some emails, and then you're completely exhausted. And then I don't even understand how people could have problems sleeping, because
hey, that's me. I wish even when I'm the most tired, that's when my head spins at night.
Really? Okay. But is that from caffeine or from?
I would definitely say that my daily dosage of caffeine is quite high. And I should probably work on that. But I think it's just also the way I'm wired. I'm just used to being on the go constantly, and especially now when this COVID situation hit, this I don't know, something came over me, and I felt like everything just slowed down, like everything just went into slow motion. Like even the way people were walking on the streets, I just felt like everything was slower, you know. And not in a bad way at all, like definitely not in a bad way, but yeah, it's been an interesting time for sure.
It's in a strange way a little bit more zen kind of way
definitely.
walking.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's we should definitely have more of that. But I remember that you were doing also you were remaking your house, right? And that was it was something November, December.
Oh Jesus! I would well. That's probably when you noticed it. But to be honest, I've been remodeling this home for 4 years now.
Okay.
And
so that was already the peak.
Yeah. This is just you just caught on, you know, at the end of a long way. But now that the home is done, I'm actually renovating a cabin right now.
Of course.
So I have a cabin. Yeah,
why
of
stop?
Course. Yeah, exactly. So I have an Airbnb company. So I run like cabins on the south coast of Iceland, kind of like in the south. Yeah. So it's a little side business hustle that I have. But now that we don't have any tourists, you know, it was just a perfect time for, you know, a musician in a pandemic, you know, to get something other than music done.
That's
so I've been renovating the cabin.
But it's also great timing to actually finish your house before you're stuck in the house, I guess. So
yeah.
I can imagine if you were still like in the December kind of midway, like just finishing up.
My God,
if that was,
I would have, you know, I would have freaking lost it. You know, it's been hard enough being stuck at home. You know, and I love my home, and I'm actually a really like homely person. Like I love cooking, and I love cleaning, and I love just making my home look as best as it can, and I just love this kind of haven that I have as my home. But oh geez, it would have been tough, definitely.
No, but now in retrospect you can really appreciate that you went through this in like during the holidays. Actually it was quite a struggle, but if it would have went for longer, then that would have been even worse. But we can only see things in retrospect that it aligned as it should, I guess.
Present me is very grateful to the past me.
And do you know when you can resume any kind of activity on stage, or how are things looking actually?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm lucky enough to live in a country where, you know, we're an island, so and the government here, you know, kudos to them. They were just so amazing when it came to controlling the virus. I mean, it spread super quick here, and it didn't look good, especially like in March. At the end of March, beginning of April, things had spread pretty quickly here. But then they really got a hold on it, and I think we have like 7 active cases right now.
7?
We've been at 0 for I think like 10 days or something. So so they've been amazing when it comes to controlling it. But then of course they're afraid of just like everyone, of like a relapse, because if you get too kind of careless, I mean, things can, as we know, this virus spreads so quick. So nobody is definitely not in a hurry to go to like a big concert or you know, a big get together. I mean, people are definitely gathering, and I think we have a gathering restriction of, I think the maximum is like 500 people now. So I mean,
that's quite large.
It's not too bad.
I think here it's something like 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, we went from 20 people and the 2-meter rule, which is actually still kind of, it's kind of applied, but yeah, so things are they've definitely been on the up and up here. But people, I mean, I think everyone's kind of expecting a relapse at one point, whether it be later in the summer or in the fall. And I think that's kind of the same everywhere. I mean, we see what's happening in China right now. They have like a big surge.
Actually, I just read the other day also that in some school in Transylvania, they try to resume just for the last couple of weeks of school, and one kid was ill,
really?
and it spread out like wildfire, and all the kids and all the parents got ill. So in a week, 150 people plus ill.
It's crazy.
So
that's crazy.
It spreads like crazy. So, but if you've got 7 cases, that's ridiculous. It's such a low number.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, definitely. So people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a low number, but we're a country of 350,000 people, so it's there are not that many of us, so
per capita it's good, yeah.
Yeah. And we're spread out. I mean, I think we're the most scarcely built nation in Europe, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of space per person in Iceland, but
it's organically organically distanced. Yeah.
Social
distance.
Yeah. Social distancing is like that's normal for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And but is there any kind of events that have assumed like there, or do you do some online stuff, or how do you manage things?
Well, I think because I've been performing nonstop for like so long, I really worked on not having, like, just not being guilty for not performing, when especially in the beginning of this, like I was sitting at home and I was just like feeling so anxious and so guilty for not, being at work or being like, out performing or preparing for a show, and
I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, or even like, especially for the I think it took me at least 10, I think it was on this, like at the second week, because I just got home on March 13th from the States, and I was supposed to do a concert in London on March 15th.
Oh, I remember.
I got home,
yeah,
and I got home on March 13th, just before the travel restrictions from the US, were put on. So I barely made it in time home, and then I was just sitting at home and thinking to myself, like, is this a good idea going to the UK? And I just, at that time, nobody really knew how serious it was. It was just, people just didn't really know what was going on. There was so much uncertainty and just, so when I decided to stay at home, it took me at least 2 weeks, because then, all the country shut down and, we all know what happened. It took me at least 10 to 14 days to just kind of, I don't know, get back into the zone. But I think it was also because I just felt like all the stress and the, just all the tiredness and the, just the stress. Yeah, it hit me. And not just like, from the previous tour, it was just years that compiled into this time, and I felt so, and I rarely get tired, I just keep on going, but I just felt so lethargic and so just drained. But then once that was over, I really had to work on myself to not be guilty and not feel like I was useless. But then once I had kind of, taken that time and really allowed myself to just be at home and just be, I got my drive back, and to be honest, and this was a total shock to me, because I thought that for someone like me, this would be like almost like a career suicide, just staying at home and doing nothing. But for me,
surely not, but
yeah.
But I can see how it could feel like this. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, especially for us. Who are classically trained, we're taught to be so just, at it at all times. If we're not practicing,
it's like an athlete. Own it.
Yeah, like an athlete. And as much as I believe in that, I think there is something to be said about finding your own inner drive. And after those 2 weeks, I found my drive again. And I realized that I had been in defense mode for such a long time, because I was just doing bookings, and I don't even do my own bookings. So I was just doing the work that was laid ahead of me, like years in advance even. And so I felt like I found my creative drive again, which has been so refreshing. Just spending time at home in my studio, practicing.
That's incredible.
On the violin. So it's been a blessing, and it's been really a gift, I think.
And now basically based on that, then I saw that you were also doing a recording session, and there was something for a film, or you were doing with an ensemble.
Right. So I'm a concertmaster in the North Icelandic Symphony Orchestra, and that orchestra is based way in the north of Iceland, and we have this amazing concert hall, and the top this world-class studio for recording film scoring and stuff like that. We've done a lot of films for Netflix. We've done stuff for Disney. We've done stuff for, just name it.
Awesome.
A lot of blockbusters. So so I'm the concertmaster in that particular orchestra, and the funny thing is that the music director in that orchestra, when the COVID situation hit, he saw a gap in the market, because even though things were pretty bad here in the beginning, they got better really quick. While other countries were in complete lockdown, we were at least allowed to be together 20 to 100 at a time with the 2-meter rule. So Netflix needed music, and they were like, "Hey, we can do it."
Amazing.
So all the orchestras.
Talking about being in the right place.
Yeah. So there was a lockdown. Where you're from, in the middle of Europe, there was lockdown pretty much everywhere. So of course the orchestras couldn't come together and record music, and everyone was sitting at home waiting for the next Netflix film. So we so we got a lot of work for Netflix films and TV shows and stuff like that. So I was flying back and forth. Quite a lot. I'm actually going.
So
back
it was a very noble act as well. Supporting materials for people to watch while they're in the lockdown. It's incredible.
We're
and at the same time,
couch potatoes, the arts.
It's a win-win. Win-win, absolutely.
Definitely.
But you also did recently. You came out. Was it like last week or something? With a new single, which is beautiful. I didn't understand the word, but it was beautiful.
Thank you. So this is the first song that I do in a long time that's in Icelandic. So for those that don't know, I'm a violinist and a singer and a songwriter. So I released a single, and it's not a new song. It's an old 70s song that became a big hit here in Icelandic. But what I did not know before I did this was that it's actually an old Motown Supremes single.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and many Icelanders don't know that, because we're like, this is our song. We're so proud of it. And it's a song that everyone here knows, and it's one of those old songs that just everyone loves. So I did a new kind of should I say electronic pop indie version of that song, and we shot a music video, and that was, I mean, that's an experience that I will never forget, because we shot the music video in like the biggest tourist places, like the most iconic Icelandic places you could think of, where it's
but
usually
it was
swamped.
empty.
Yeah, it's usually like swamped with tourists. You have to get like a permit, and like it's a huge thing if you have to close it down for, like, Justin Bieber could probably do it, but probably nobody else could shut these places down. But they were completely empty, and I mean, like, not a soul. There was not one person.
So no use for permit or anything.
No, and it was amazing, and I got to see my country in a completely different light. You know, it was insane. Yeah.
How it's in its natural form, basically, but minus the tourists. This is amazing. I mean, the video is really beautiful, really quite cinematic, such a beautiful scenery. I haven't been there, but it's definitely a sight, and it was.
Well, you should definitely come. I will take you to all these places. We can shoot a music video, but chances are it's not going to be empty. If you can get here, you know, probably other tourists can as well.
Well, most probably, but you also have some. Maybe not everybody knows, but you also have participated in the Eurovision contest, I think twice. Right?
Yeah.
And once you got to the finals, is it?
Yeah, 2012.
Which is crazy. Like, how was that? This is like quite surreal. I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain, and especially for people that don't know what Eurovision is. It's kind of like being stuck inside this reality TV that's like a mixture of X Factor, America's Got Talent, and the Hunger Games. And it's like, it's so hard to explain, but it's a huge event, and I mean, it gets like, I think 200 million views or something like that. It's pretty insane. Yeah. So in 2012, I participated for Iceland with a song that I wrote called Never Forget. And this song actually, I mean, you could say it just changed my life completely, because if it wouldn't have been for Eurovision, I don't think I would be doing what I am doing today. You know, it was such an interesting experience, both because at that time I was a violinist first and foremost. You know, I was singing a lot and I was writing a lot, but I wasn't what should I say? Like, I wasn't out of the closet.
You hadn't embraced the singer.
Yeah. And so yeah, I entered the competition, and in Iceland, Eurovision has like 99.9% ratings or something like that. Like, every single person watches it. And
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Wow.
We're like fanatics when it comes to this. So when I won the competition in 2012, my life got kind of turned over in like in a matter of one night, basically.
Wow.
So after
the whole country knows you then, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're guaranteed like in one night. It was really strange, but at that time I was so happy that I was doing my master's in music, and I had I've been doing music my whole life. I'd gone through the whole classical 9 yards and the competitions, and I was very familiar with hard work and competition. As most classical
I hear you.
are. Yep, exactly. And then after Eurovision, I got a record deal here in Iceland, and I got to travel all over the world. And I never ever thought I would do Eurovision again. I mean, 2012 was, as much as I'm grateful for that year, I didn't particularly enjoy it. It was so new to me, and the whole Eurovision experience was so overwhelming, and I just took it too seriously, I guess.
Okay.
I was also very young and you know, I had a lot riding on this, and I didn't want to mess it up, basically.
I mean, also coming from the classical bubble to being exposed all of a sudden to like millions and millions, like whole of Europe and beyond Europe, basically. This is a huge stress. So this doesn't of course, this is the natural state. Like it would be strange if you would have been completely relaxed, I guess.
Definitely. But I mean, after that, I mean, I gigged and performed and toured just nonstop till it got to the point where I was just done. I see. I don't know how many performances I did in like 2 years, but it was insane. And in 2014, I actually got a contract with Disney, and they contracted me to go on one of their cruise ships to put up like a Disney show.
Okay.
And that was another thing that was completely new to me. Like I was just like, Disney? Oh, okay, I'm sure. I mean, I'd love to work with Mickey
Cinderella?
Yeah, why not? And this was at the time where Frozen and everything was coming out, so they were like, oh, you would be a great fit, you know, for Disney right now, you know, with your blonde hair and coming from Scandinavia. So things kind of, you know, one thing led to another, and I worked for Disney exclusively for 2 years, where my show basically became like a main stage Disney production show.
Wow.
So and it was amazing. And working with Disney is just, it's a completely different level. They are, you know, they go above and beyond with everything. And I remember this one meeting where they were talking about like what they wanted in the show. They wanted me to fly, and they wanted me to like dance and sing and like be up in the air and do all these like
the Scandinavian fairy.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, she's tiny, she can be up in the air, you know. But
we've got a couple of cranes here, let's do it.
I mean, play a virtuoso piece while you're doing it, no problem. Sing, do that too.
As one does, of course.
As one does. And do it with a smile as well. Obviously. But I remember this one meeting where we were just, you know, bouncing ideas back and forth. And there was a man there who was kind of head of entertainment. And every time we would come up with an idea and someone would say, oh no, we can't do that, he would never say, okay, what else can we do? He would always say, why can't we do that? And that's something completely new to, especially to someone like me. Like, I come from a small country. I come from the classical background. We're used to working
restrictions.
Restrictions, and even like with big productions, you're always so, you know, budget bound. You're always limited to the budget.
Right.
But there was just like, we'll just send someone from, I can't remember where it was, like someone had to come and meet me in, I think it was the Grand Caymans, to sign a waiver for me to be able to fly in a harness. And he just came and he was just like, don't die. And I signed the waiver and he was off. And I was just like, wow.
Okay.
Guess I'm flying. So, you know, it was such a, you know, big lesson for me when it comes to entertainment to work for Disney. And then when I moved back home after that little adventure, I came home and I wrote a song called Hear Them Calling, and I don't know what came over me, but I decided to enter the Eurovision contest one more time, and I ended up winning for the second time in Iceland. And
amazing. That
song became like, it was quite an interesting journey because that song became like a fan favorite. And everything went so smoothly, and I enjoyed myself on stage like I've never done before. Like, I felt like I was 100% in control of my movement, my performance, my vocal cords, like everything just went according to plan, but we didn't make it to the finals. And my management team at the time, they were just so quick and so clever, so they kind of took that wave that came from, you know, disappointed Eurovision fans. And that's a cult. That's like the most loyal cult that you will ever meet. And they kind of just went with it, and they took everything that I did and they made it bigger. So in a way, for me, Eurovision 2016, which was like, when you look at the numbers, you know, the result wasn't as good in the competition, but for my career, the 2016 one just, you know, was light years better for my career than the one in 2012. But I think it's got a lot to do with like social media and exposure and having the right management around you. And I was just so lucky to have good people around me. And that was 4 years ago now, and yeah, I haven't stopped since, basically.
But it's also the fact that you had already 4 years under the belt of this experience and this kind of looseness, where there is kind of already this automatic feeling that I've seen this, I've done this, I do this 100 nights a year or more, and it's not, there's nothing to be tense about. There's the element of familiarity, I guess.
Oh yeah, and definitely. Oh,
then,
I completely agree.
When you're caught in this big machine that is just shoots you up, then you're completely ready, because then you already have the backing psychologically, physically, as an artist, and also you having the right management, obviously, to promote is very useful in that moment.
Definitely.
That's,
and I mean,
is that?
And I know.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, just, you know, having the work ethic, which I think comes from classical training a lot. You know, you just know that, you know, you don't have to be the best. Like but you can work, and you can work and work and work. And sometimes I think work trumps talent, you know. And that's
always,
that
I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that I've, you know, it feels so good to me to kind of repeat that mantra over and over, because I cannot control talent. We can never control talent. Like, someone is born more skilled in something than someone else is. It's just a matter of how we're wired. But what I can control is how hard I work, you know, at things. That is so controllable.
This is absolutely true. I actually have been brought up with the idea that there are plenty of talented people who, you know, just become, you know, reliant on their talent, so they don't put enough work. There was this professor that's at a festival that I went to in Netherlands, and I remember him telling me that after one performance I was quite disappointed with myself. So he was like, you see, Evgeny, this is having a talent is a responsibility. Having a larger talent is even greater responsibility. You shouldn't rely on it, but rather you should look at it as a piece of land. Right. And that was very, very interesting to me, because it's the first time I had heard this kind of comparison, because it's like the bigger the talent, the larger the land that you own. But that means for you to make it fruitful, you need to spend much more energy, much more work in order to actually utilize the qualities that you've got. So don't think that just because there is talent that you don't need to put in the work. And that was very revealing, and it's also one of the turning points for me also, where you know, there are these points in life where you just turn it up and more, and you become even more dedicated, and you push even further. And
Great.
I've held on to that since, well, now almost half a lifetime.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
it's been a while. But this is
also,
very true.
I think but I think you're also you're such a great example of a modern day classical musician who doesn't.
You're very kind.
Exactly. No, I mean it. And I was thinking about this when you were asking me what topics I wanted to focus on for this podcast, because I can imagine that there is a lot of classically trained musicians who listen to this, who are in the position where they've been kind of fed information and they've been fed kind of, what should I say, the guidance to where they're supposed to go next, what they're supposed to do. So they've never really been taught this kind of self-initiative to be your own boss, to be your own promoter, be your own marketing agent, be your own negotiator, be your own content creator. There's so much to be said about all of that. So I mean, now is the time, especially for people who are classically trained, who are not performing right now. And it's my opinion that when you've reached 5 hours of practicing per day, you're doing more damage than you are doing more good. So when you have all this time free, look into these things, dive into social media, dive into all the opportunities that are out there, because we live in different times now. And I think actually COVID is pivoting us into this completely different new era
forcefully.
where we're for whether we like it or not.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. So and I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about what it is that I would let's say that I was going back to, say, being 20 and fresh out of undergrad and doing my going into my master's or whatever, or even younger, even 15, 16, what would I want to hear at that age, listening to this podcast, being a classical musician or a student? And it brought me back to the question that just changed my life, and it changed my view on my education and my direction and my self-worth as well. And I was 23 when I was doing my master's in music, and I went to this music course. It was the first course of the master's program, and there was a man there. His name is Dr. Peter Renshaw. You may know him from Guildhall. Peter Renshaw. He is.
I think it's a familiar name. Yeah.
Yeah. So he used to be the principal of the Yehudi Menuhin school, which is for child prodigies, and he used to be a violinist. I think he's in his 80s now. Funny, witty, sarcastic man, and I love him to death. And I have a lot, I have a lot to thank, to this man, because he really made me open my eyes and look myself in the mirror. And when I started this course, I was kind of in denial, because I knew that I wanted to do all these different things, but I didn't want to admit it. I was just in this defense mode. I wanted to practice, and I wanted to play some Bach for him, and I didn't want to lose my, what should I say? I was so afraid that I would lose my identity as a violinist if I did something else. Or should I say credibility, I think, as a classical musician. If I would venture into...
Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
If I would venture into other genres or, other directions. And
that's the end.
So I had... Yeah. So I had a private lesson with him. And I was ready. I had my instrument out, and I was ready to play him a chaconne from, a Bach chaconne.
Yeah.
And to get his feedback on it. And he looks at me and he says in his like, you know, posh British accent, like, put the bloody thing away.
Oh, damn.
And I put my, yeah, exactly. And I put my instrument away. I was just like, oh, where is this going?
This
and
is not going well.
Yeah. And he looks at me, he goes, Greta, I know you can play that thing. I've heard you play 1,000 times, you know, because I've been, you know, we've been at that music festival for like 10 days. And then he looks at me and he goes, but what do you want to do in music? And I realized at that point, I was like, I'm 23. I've been studying music since I was 4. I do not remember my life before I started. Like, my first memory is me playing the violin.
Yeah.
Like, I have no recollection of a life before that. And I don't know life without music or studying. And I realized nobody had ever asked me that question, ever. And I had gone through like my academy, I had gone through, you know, my undergrad, and I was at the late stages of a university, you know, degree.
I know very well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was eye-opening, and for the first time, there was someone that I took seriously as a classical musician asking me if there was anything else that I wanted to do than just play my instrument. And that night, I actually went into, it was at this beautiful little countryside in Iceland. I went into the church where we were staying, and I wrote the song Never Forget, which actually became the first Eurovision song and changed my life. So in a way, I have him to thank for, you know, so many things that came after that. But I wish that especially teachers, classical teachers who teach students that are so like driven and so like they're like sponges, they just want to soak up all the information and be better. I wish we would ask these kids much earlier, what do you want to do? Like, I know you can play your instrument, because then reality hits. Like, we have only so many symphony orchestras or, you know, like accompanist jobs or, you know, opera gigs in the world. And there are way too many of us. Too many of us. So what happens when you don't get the position at the symphony orchestra that you want to? What happens when you don't get the role in the opera that you've been struggling? Like, what happens? Because what's left for so many people is like, well, this didn't work out, so I might as well go teach.
Yeah, but you see, this is also because of the previous generation. We were basically brought by the teachers of the previous generation. They didn't have the same opportunities. They didn't have these tools that we can now utilize. And there was even no internet back then, let's say. We've been brought up with this idea that kind of tunnel visioned into just practice, go to competition, do this concert, do this festival, do this, and just hope that you would be that things would work out for you, and basically be stuck in your practice room unless something else happens. And this is it has taken me also years to kind of pull myself away from this. Because it's so engraved in your mind that like there's like an umbilical cord that is connected to me from the piano, and it can only stretch that far. I always need to be around the piano, which is horrific. You need to actually there's been stages of me trying to pull away from this, and the first one was through actually being as the part of the Symphoniacs. And then,
which is amazing. Love that group.
And then just bit by bit actually finding out that okay, there is a new dimension, actually embracing it and kind of integrating it in your own. But this is even today the schools are still with the old system, and there are very few people like the one that has guided you that actually can give you that point of reference and be like, okay, well, no, stop yourself and think for a second. You know, the way COVID makes us think now.
Exactly.
And be like, okay, what do you actually want to do, and what actually fulfills that vision that you have? What is your actual vision? Not what you're taught, not where you're pushed towards, but what do you really want to do with this, and what would fulfill you? Because some people can teach, some people have a gift for teaching, but the majority of people that I know are not in that not in that chart. So then it just leads to a lot of frustration, because when it was the right time, when it was early enough, well, that's wrong to say, because it's never late, but they keep getting more and more frustrated because they're not where they envisioned to be, rather than and there is this also kind of level of entitlement that comes with it, that like, well, if I do this, I'm entitled to this. This should come naturally to me. Like, if I've been practicing for 12 hours a day, then I'm supposed to win competitions and be invited to these concerts. Nobody owes you this. Like, unless you put yourself out there. And there is also what you made an amazing point for. Like, there is also, if you pull away, then the scrutiny that you would get from your colleagues, like, how could you be exploring anything else than what you've been doing so far? Although classical music is amazing, this is absolutely my anchor, and this is something that is always going to be present in my life in various shapes and forms. But then it it doesn't mean that this is the end of it all. Like and lots of people, just out of fear that they're going to be scrutinized by their peers, they don't go and explore. Although this is an amazing foundation that basically you can do anything after this if you allow yourself, rather than being like a tunnel vision into just, okay, I'm staying in my lane and this is what I do, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I hope also that this time of self-isolation has helped people to give them a bit of a perspective on this, and pull themselves away from that whirlpool of thoughts and also influences, and just find themselves, whether it's musically or on a personal level, whatever it is. I hope this perspective, also your perspective, is helpful, and I'm sure it is, and people will find it useful.
I really hope so, because I see so many kids, and it breaks my heart to see kids that are talented and they've worked so hard, and then they go into this one competition, and like, I was that kid. Like, I would practice 10 hours a day, and then I would do the competition, and if I didn't win, I felt like a failure. Even though I would play every single note perfectly, I felt like a failure because I didn't win, because someone played it a little bit faster than me. But what is, in the grand scheme of things, what does that even matter, Because we're taught to do everything perfectly. And I think, when it comes to the academies, and especially young students, we need to teach them self-worth. And we need to teach them not to, have their own self-image relying on if they win a competition or get a job as a player in a symphony orchestra. Because, I know plenty of people who got the job in a symphony orchestra and they're miserable. I know plenty of people who got the job and are happy, but, it's just, we have to somehow help people break away from the classical boundaries that are like the mental boundaries that are, if you don't do this, if you don't get
this kind
then
of
you're
programming.
a failure. Yeah, because I will be the first one to say, like, technique, definitely, like you need to work on that. Like, you need to spend those 10,000 hours on your craft before you can kind of like fly. Like, I'm not one to
that's a given
to give definitely, like, there's no discount on that, but after that there's not only one way for, you know, for people to go. And I think we need 100%. To teach, especially young kids who have spent all their childhood, all their teenage years locked in a practice room. You know, we need to teach them that the world is changing. And I mean, just look at your Instagram and your YouTube channel. Like, it's a classroom, you know, example of someone who's taken their craft and made it modern. You know, because classical music, I mean, you know, let's not fool ourselves. Like, it's not the most hip and cool, like, modern thing, you know, for people on the outside. But when
unless you're 2 centuries old.
Yeah, exactly. But when we take it and we put it into this, like, modern context, and it's accessible, it's not like this elite, you know, high class thing where you have to buy like a $100 ticket to go to the opera or to the ballet or you know, the symphony or whatever. You take it and you put it into like an accessible modern thing, then the world is at your fingertips, basically.
Because you already have the skills and you've cultivated all this. It's just about the direction and about the way to communicate with people. I agree, absolutely. But I've also wanted to ask you, I saw on YouTube that you've got also a music video with The Mountain. Mr. Björnsson.
With Hafþór. Yeah.
Was that after the second Eurovision? Was that after the first one? How did it come about? This must have been quite an experience.
I mean, it was, this was in 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2017 that we made the music video. It's to a song that I wrote called My Blues. Mm-hmm. And so
he's there picking you up, like.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like not even like warm up for him. He's like, he's like shoulder pressing me on one hand. No, but I know Hafþór. I actually met him a few days ago. He's just such a great guy, and I love when people, and he's a classic example of like hard work pays off. You know,
absolutely.
And he always is like, I will work harder than the other guy. You know, that's that's his. You know,
there is no other way. How?
Yeah, I mean, and he used to be this like tall, scrawny, like thin basketball player, and look at him now. You know, he knew what he wanted, and he did the work. Yeah, but that was the video with the mountain. So it was like the two of us going to the gym. It was like Timon and Pumbaa, you know, from Lion King, like going to the gym.
That's such a good example. Yeah.
But no, he's such a great guy, and we had a lot of fun making that video.
That's awesome. But another thing that I think it's super interesting, and I've been trying to preach to people, and it takes a lot of effort to put it through as a message. Everybody, like, as soon as I post a story or a post from the gym, people, I get like a number of messages that is like, oh, you work out, like, as a surprise, like from other.
Oh my god, because you're a classical musician.
How could you work out and like not have problems with the hands? Like, don't you get stiff? Doesn't it affect your speed? Like, all sorts of like questions in that line. And I've been meaning to do a talk, a few videos about it, so that we can kind of light some some knowledge on this and some experience from this. But I think you're probably one of the most equipped people to talk about this, to initiate this conversation with, because you're someone who works out religiously, who always I see your posts, and it's I believe, and I'm convinced that it's an inspiration for many people to see your hard work. As you said, you've got even all the equipment at home. I'm a bit jealous, but
I just
to
got
be honest,
yesterday.
Wow. But to be honest, like I also still prefer the atmosphere of the gym. Like I like to get out of the house in order to
Jesus, yes.
There's this. But I mean, COVID has forced us indoors, but that's another thing. But you also like have this very tough regimen. Even when you're touring, I've seen that always this is one of your anchors. Like, I'm gonna work out and I'm gonna keep moving. This is kind of your one of your dynamos that that you've got in your system, which is amazing, and it's something that I can totally relate to. And like how did that come about? When did it start? Were you like the one that like is the unconventional kid at school, or did it start later on? How did it come about?
It's interesting. I think that was actually one of the first things that you and I bonded over. Is like, oh my god, a classical musician who likes the gym.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the only one in the world.
Yeah.
And you lift weights. Oh my god, it's like so rare. But I mean, I've always been pretty athletic. Like, I grew up doing sports. I used to do the 100 meters, and then I got really involved with ballroom dancing. So I was competing in ballroom dancing for many years, which has really helped with my performance and my shows today. And I'm so thankful to my parents for, having me go through all that. I mean, it was hard work to do like sports, to do the dancing and the violin all at the same time. But so I've always been pretty athletic. It's just been something that I grew up doing. My parents are super like fit people. They would take us on like hikes, and we were just always active. But then when I think it was about the time when I was starting my like pre-college in Iceland. It was probably around 17, I would say. I stopped dancing because violin had just taken over. I wasn't doing any sports, and I just felt this enormous need of just moving. And I've always had this just need for not just improving my skills on the violin, but also like physically. I think that has kind of spilled over to the workout or the fitness thing. I just want to keep improving, whatever that means. And I got really into just going to the gym when I was in high school. So that was like my time off. I would go to school, and I went to it's called like the College of Reykjavik, it's a pretty tough school. So I would spend my mornings at school, then I would go to the academy, practice for like 3 or 4 hours, then I would go to the gym, and that would be like my hallelujah moment of the day. Nice. Where I could just be by myself, not listen to classical music, and then I would go back to the academy and practice or take classes until 10, 11 p.m. at night, and that was my life. And then when I moved to Florida, which is 2007, I went to college, university in Florida, Stetson University. When I went there, that's when I really discovered that I had this just big appetite for sports. Like, I went to baseball games, I went to basketball games, soccer games. Like, I I love just being a part of that sports community, you know.
But that's
going
also
to
the
games
place
and-
to do that, if
I
anywhere.
mean, you know, I was on a cheerleading team. Like I wanted to do everything.
Amazing.
I had like the full college experience in Florida, and I'm, you know, some of the best times of my life. But then when I moved back home, I was thinking about what I wanted to do. If I wanted to like go back into like running, or if I wanted to go into more of like a mixed martial art, like something that was more of a sport than just training. And a friend of mine, she took me to a class. It was called boot camp, and it was a pretty big gym in Iceland, and they only had like group classes, and they were basically like Navy SEAL trained people doing like Navy SEAL training.
Wow.
And I just fell in love with it. Like, you know, drag me through the mud, you know, make me do 10, you know, that's where I thrive. And, you know, being at that place where you cannot, like, you're gasping for air, your like skin is burning because you've like exhausted yourself. I mean, that's my happy place. And I realized that when I started boot camp. And then after that, I did CrossFit. But for me, I mean, I'm so competitive, and I get so ahead of myself that, you know, my CrossFit career ended up in 2 shoulder surgeries because I was just, you know, was doing like Olympic weightlifting maybe 3 hours a day, and it just,
wow.
And then I would spend the rest of my day like this, so my shoulders were like fried. And after I had the shoulder surgery, I decided that I was never going to jeopardize anything when it came to my body and my ability to perform and to play. So I went back to kind of just the essence of training, and I've just been doing functional, different types of trainings, you know, ever since. And I love it, you know, and with traveling, like, you know, I make sure every single hotel that I stay in has a gym so that I can, even after like a long day of traveling, just going and just lifting weights for 15 minutes, like it just, it
gives you some new blood, for sure. It gives you, and it's refreshing, especially if you're jet lag. This has always refreshed me, and it makes such a huge difference. And I don't see any other way how you can do it. But I'm now accustomed to this. I've experienced it. I felt it. And now this is the standard that you keep yourself to. And it's weird if you don't do it. And you kind of feel groggy if you don't do it. For sure. And so there has been also I haven't gone as far as surgery, but there has been some learning curve for me as well, because I've had, obviously, from the piano there is a danger for the neck, for the shoulders, and for the elbows. There is also some danger for the wrists. So when you first start, there is always gonna be some unusual sensations. Obviously, because if you come out of the street and sit at the piano and practice for an hour, for 2, there's going to be pain too. It's not people then ask me like, okay, well, I went to work out, but then I'm feeling really tense. Oh, really? Surprise. Your body is not accustomed to it, sure, but what you can through the years, through reading, through researching, through experiencing, you learn how to do it right, so that you do it safely, and as long as they don't push it too soon and do it safely, then it is actually a necessity to do it, especially if you're stuck in a practice room for on average 5 hours a day, 3, 5, 6, 7 hours. Then if I don't work out, then my back starts falling apart, because from the accumulative practicing over many years, then it's just the stability is not the same. So
Definitely.
So I definitely feel it, and this old injury or that old injury from practicing starts calling if I don't go for a few weeks. So it's rather, the question is not should you do it, is why are you not doing it? Like this is your body, you need to maintain it.
Yeah. And also, like, are you playing I think the question is, are you playing the long-term game or not? Like, I get it if people see someone doing, like, a grueling CrossFit workout where you're doing, like, 30 snatches, you know, like, on time. That's probably not going to be great for someone who has to go then and perform, like, a whole Beethoven sonata or something. But, what I have learned for myself and what I have decided for myself is that when I'm 70... I want to have the option of picking up my violin without hurting my back, and I want to, I want to be able to play, and I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to be performing still, and for me to be able to do that, I need to take care of my body. And and it's the same for people who play in, like, symphony orchestras. Like, sometimes I look over at the orchestra and I think about posture, and I think about, people's bodies, and I'm like,
it's shocking.
You're going to be, it's shocking. Like, you're going to be fried by the time you're, like, 50. And I don't want that for myself. I want to be fit and healthy, and I want to live long. That's my ultimate goal. Like, I want to live for a long time, and I want to live a quality life where I'm healthy. And I would, and I have no problem saying this, I would always, always, always choose my health and my fitness before music, because it is my health that makes me able to do music. So in a way, when I go to the gym, sometimes when I'm thinking, like, and I always have this nagging, like, voice in my head, like, oh, you should be practicing. Like, you're going to the gym and you haven't even practiced an hour today, and you're still going to the gym for like an hour and a half. But I have a quick answer to myself for that. It's like, well, yeah, I'm doing that so that I can, do this and this and this. And with, the shows that I do, like, I have to have stamina. Like, I move a lot when I'm performing. I have to be 100%. Able to sing too, so there's a lot that comes into it. And I feel like I'm investing in my career as a performer.
It definitely gives you more longevity. And there is actually... especially once you know how it works and you do it safely, this can only benefit you. There is this saying that I when I was a teenager, I used to have this little notebook where I would write quotes that I enjoyed and I found interesting, and there was this this quote from Schopenhauer, who is generally quite dark, but this one was when something like, health is not everything, but everything without health is nothing.
True.
So unless you look after yourself and you keep yourself in the best possible shape, then you won't be able to do anything. You're not going to put yourself in the position to pursue like what my mantra is, the sweet struggle that you have. I think it's obviously a lot different people will pick it. It doesn't have to be running, or it doesn't have to be powerlifting, or whatever, or swimming. Lots of people do swimming. Since a year or so, I also wake up early morning. I do yoga for an hour or two. This is also part of it. You can do it, but there has to be something in order to maintain yourself and to keep yourself up and to give you that energy, because otherwise you just get more and more stuck.
Definitely.
But how did you get actually into? I see that you also present this. Is it Icelandic brand of is it
fitness.
gym? Yeah. What is that?
I mean, I think it's because I mean, of course it comes
If it's okay
from
to speak
social
about
media.
this, of course.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, of course. You know, brand endorsements and like collaborations and stuff like that. That's another thing that I think musicians should think about. You know, I'm collaborating right now. I'm collaborating with I can't remember what they're called now. They're like Brandmeister or something like that. They got a metronome that's like a vibrating watch, basically.
Yeah, I've seen this the ads.
Yeah, so they sent me like a metronome to try out, and you know, violin strings and stuff like that. It's just, you know, if you should think about stuff like that, because that's another thing that comes with social media. You can get endorsed by companies, you can get like sponsorships, you can get great collaborations that are, you know, good for the company and good for you as well. And for me, my image is first and foremost music. And then definitely the second identity and my second like image, I would say, is health and fitness. So so my endorsements are mostly based on those things. So yeah, I'm endorsed by a clothing company, like a sports apparel company. But then I get like, you know, I've got other collaborations with brands when it comes to like supplements and stuff like that. So. And I mean, it's great. It works for me. It works for the company. It works for it's just it's a win-win thing.
But this is part of your identity, and then it's something that anyway is part of you. You don't need to really put an act at all for it. This is just organically fits into the system, and it's, as you said, it's mutually beneficial for everyone.
Definitely. And I mean, as you know, like social media is crowded with, you know, influencer, whether it be like big influencers or micro influencers or influencers at all, people who are trying to, or people not just trying to, just people who are willing to sell their kind of identity and their soul for a little bit of, you know, money, basically, for or just even a product. And you see people advertising the craziest stuff that just doesn't fit into their persona or their, you know, their image. And that's something that I've really decided that I'm not gonna do. Like if you know, and I get so many requests for just like stupid things that have nothing to do with me or my brand, and I'm like, why? Like I'm really, like, I appreciate the interest, but it's just, I don't even think I have the right audience for that, you know.
I can totally relate, because there's been a few apps, there's been a few products that they've contacted me, and it's just like, first of all, I don't think it works for me. I don't think I don't always enjoy, like, unless you find use for the product, or at least there is use for your audience to use this, and it's something that you can stand behind, then it's a no, because this actually, you're cheating yourself. Obviously, like, you miss out on some paychecks for that, and that can build up to be a substantial sum, but
you
still
get to keep your soul.
I think this is the only genuine way. This is the only way that you should be doing it, because if you cannot stand behind it, then you cannot be disingenuous to yourself and to everyone who actually looks what you put out. It has to fit with who you are and what you represent.
Definitely. And you don't want to tire your audience as well. You don't want them to be, you know, bombarded with just different products that they have no interest in, or stuff that, and people, I mean, people are smart, you know. Behind every single follower is a person who followed you for a reason, you know, and they're gonna know, like, the number one thing that I get asked to promote is, like, you know, like diet pills, or like, some like nutrition bars that are supposed to make you.
I
like,
just
lose
go
weight
work
and,
out.
like,
What?
exactly. I'm like, it's not rocket science. Like I could never, because I would never buy into that. So why would I tell my audience to, my followers to do that? Because they would be like, come on, Greta, you're smarter than this.
I remember
so...
my brother actually took this kind of pills once, and I tried the package, and I felt horrible for the rest of the day. And he was like, "Man, but this is it. Like it makes you feel horrible. You don't want to eat." It's like, yeah. So he was kind of embracing this, like, man, this is not for me. You do your thing. Actually, there was a time where the first time I went to the States, I gained in 40 days, I gained 12 kilos. This is, yeah, imagine me like this. This was horrific.
Kilos. That's like 20 pounds. That's impressive.
That's more like 25 pounds.
Jesus.
And it was crazy. I was I think 15 or 16, something like that. So first time in the land of the fast food chains, and it was.
Oh my God!
I was attending like a couple of festivals, had some concerts, and it was always something that it was basically everything was provided: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and everything in between, snacks, whatever. And I didn't have time to get hungry, basically, but everything was so delicious to a 16-year-old that was like, yeah, just food, give me food, it's great.
Yeah.
More sauce, of course, more sauce. Give me that ranch or whatever it is.
Why not? Ranch.
Yeah, and that, so 40 days later, I come back home and I'm embarrassed to look at myself in the mirror. So then for the next, I basically from 70 kilos I became 82, and then what I did was I just put myself on a regimen. I had prepared food and the turkey rye bread sandwich, maybe with some vegetable. That's all. And I used to religiously run every evening, like 5 to 10 kilometers. And that's what I knew at the time, and that's what I did. Then later on, I introduced also the gym training, and then I took it even too far, and I became something like 64 kilos, which was getting on the dangerous side on the other.
That's close to what I am now. I'm like 47.
No, but for my build, that was getting a bit crazy, because losing in few months, like 4 or 5 months, I lost 20 kilos almost.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So for a teenager, that shouldn't happen. So my parents started getting a little bit worried, but that was again like then things normalized. But basically, so I there was always like, okay, this is what has happened. Now I just need to do something about it. And you don't rely on external help, but you do it yourself. That's what stands behind this. This is, you have the initiative, you invest yourself in this, and you push through. You've put yourself into that situation. You are in that situation for a reason. Now you put the necessary effort, and that's how it works. So there shouldn't be unhealthy shortcuts with chemicals that you don't know what you put in your system. Really,
it's so simple, really. It's just like, calories in, calories out. Like when it comes to losing weight, then if you want to like gain muscle and like lean muscle, that's where like science comes into it, and you have to be a little bit more strategic. But I just get kind of like these, I don't know, just shivers when I see all these like, want to lose like 20 pounds in 10 days? Have this tea. It's like, come on, it's not how it works.
That's a hard no from me. So from a female perspective, even like more levels to actually going to the gym and kind of exposing yourself. And there's this, I think it's really, really valuable to talk about and to dispel some of the thoughts and insecurities and also realities of the gym, because it seems like this evil place where you can get in trouble or something. Like from my, obviously this is just based on observation. I haven't had a female perspective myself.
I am shocked.
But that's I've seen girls struggling with this, and I think it would be really useful to also have your perspective on this. So definitely worth discussing this further before we it's as a empowerment of women is important, and I think also in this this kind of year of turmoil, there's been the getting back to yourself through being in isolation, so getting alone with yourself. And before then, there has been the Me Too movement of just coming out and like really clearing all this nonsense and all this really negative stuff that has been going on for years, and it's about time that it got out of the dark and just removed from society as much as it's possible. And now I think another element to this is what is happening in the States and also everywhere else with the Black Lives Matter, and I think it's something that has been personally a little bit, to be honest, frustrating to me for quite a while, because from an outsider perspective, being the leaders of the free world, being that nation, the States is supposed to set an example, and at least that's what's supposed to happen. And somehow, time and time again, there has been an uprising, and then it just has no result. And they just sweep things under the carpet and then go back to normal. We have this saying that back home, that it's every miracle is for 3 days, and then it goes back to the status quo, which it makes me sad. It makes you frustrated, and it's at the same time you cannot really, you feel like this is inevitable. You cannot do anything about it because you're not even at the location. And is it something that in its own form is, I find, present in every society, but because the States, everything is amplified so much more, and it's in a way it's rooted so deeply in the essence of the upbringing of the country. It's really a tough problem, and it's amazing that people all over the world actually also encouraging, all over the States obviously, and also like even in Japan. Also here, there was in front of the American embassy in Budapest, people stood in silence for 8 minutes 46 seconds, and it's amazing that there's been such overwhelming support. And I really, really hope that now this will bring a significant change, some fundamental change that is necessary, and it's been long. It's been necessary for a long time. But I hope things come together there. Like, has there been any in Iceland? Has people also protested about it, or has there been other peoples that you know that have been directly affected or part of it also? Like, you've lived in the States for some time. How has that been?
I mean, for me, living in the States it's a completely different world to me, because I come from a small place, Iceland. It's we're a small country, we're a small nation, we're just 360,000, and it's also the most I think it's been known for like 20 years in a row, something like that, like the most peaceful country in the world. It's the safest country in the world. Our financial system and the economic system is pretty strong, so I would say. So
this is very alien to you, all this.
I mean, it is in a way, because also Iceland is one of the most liberal countries in the world. So when it comes to, and I'm not saying that racism does not exist here. I think it exists everywhere, in one shape or form. And prejudice is just, it's a part of humans, unfortunately. We're so comfortable within our own environment and with what we know, that when we see something that's completely different, or something that is just a little bit foreign to us, we're so quick to judge it as weird, whereas that's a complete norm to other people. But when I moved to the States, I think and I want to be careful with how I phrase this, because I don't want to offend anyone, but I mean, the number one thing that struck me was the level of, patriotism, what do you call it? Being patriotic.
Patriotism?
Yeah, patriotism, yeah. That's one thing. But nationalism is another thing. And I feel like sometimes the line is pretty thin between those two things. And when it comes to the States, and this is something that really struck me, especially in 2016 when the presidential campaign was going on and the election was going on, both sides, the Democrat and the Republican side, they would throw out this one sentence again and again and again, and it just, I don't know, it just almost made me angry to hear both sides just tossing this around so freely. And they would always say, America is the greatest country in the world. And that's like a mantra that they kind of is engraved in every single American citizen, that they should believe this, that America is the greatest country in the world. And you might it might be to you, but when you bring out something like that, it's like a statement like that is basically saying every single other country in the world is inferior.
Right.
And for me as as an Icelander from a country that, I would always say, I think Iceland is the best country for me to live in because it's home.
Sure. Of course.
But I would but of course it's not the best country in the world. There are things here that are better in other places, and there are things here that are definitely, the best of the best. But then there are other, it's just I feel like saying we are the best in the world and everyone else is inferior is such a politically wrong statement to make. And I think out of that comes so much friction when it comes to, you're proud to be an American, but then you have something like, the Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too movement. You have so much turmoil going on, and everything just amplifies, I feel, in the States. And now with the Black Lives Matter movement, I just, I've kind of been, of course, I've been watching this from the sidelines, because I come from a country where, like I said, we're super liberal. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist here, but I would say it's not something that we encounter a lot. To see this happening all over the world, I think it's a wake-up call for everyone, and even people like me that come from liberal countries, because it makes you look in the mirror and think like, okay, what have I said that could be interpreted as racism? It also makes you look at things like just the way you phrase things, just the way you say certain things could be perceived as racism. And I think when it comes to stuff like that, and I've seen, especially on social media, and it has been kind of funny to watch people rising up and saying, well, yeah, Black Lives Matter, but all lives matter. Yeah, that's true, but that's not what we're talking. That's not the issue here. It's like watching someone get kicked in the foot, and they're saying, my foot hurts, and then you go, well, what about my foot? It doesn't minimize their pain.
There was a very good comparison I read a few days ago. It's like if someone in your family has died, and then you say, well, if you go to that person and say, well, all people die, although factually it's not incorrect, then it's still offensive to that person. It's just rude thing to say, because now this is the topic at hand. Obviously all lives matter, but now it's like the topic and the people who have been suppressed in such a negative way continuously. That's why we focus on this. That's why everybody draws their attention to that. But you're right that it's a very sensitive subject, all these subjects, and it should be phrased carefully, of course, because obviously I'm not in any way thinking that obviously we don't mean anything negative, or we mean well, and we mean to support in the way one can from a distance, and support the movement to whatever extent is possible. So then we try to the best of our ability to also phrase it in a way that doesn't trigger anybody in a negative way. That's not the point of this. It's an important conversation to be had.
Definitely. And to approach it with compassion. I think 100%. Compassion is the number one thing. If there's one thing I would if I were to say the number one thing that I look for in a person, it's compassion. And I think with the current political climate, especially in the States, I think sometimes it lacks a little compassion, and just be humble and compassionate. And you can be wrong, definitely. We're all wrong, at one point or another. But if you approach it with humility and just be humble about it and compassionate, be willing to accept the fact that we are probably all a little bit, racist in our thinking based on where we come from and what we're accustomed to. That doesn't mean that we can't improve on that. And I think, when people kind of, they become defensive, they're like, I'm not racist. Well, you're not, you may not, intend to be, but we all are. It's not about...
There is, unfortunately, sorry to interrupt, but there is unfortunately a level of social programming. And there is also, depending on what you're exposed to, there is a level of familiarity, and then when I think at least from what I see, is like in the States, this level of duality is very prominent. It's either this or that. It's you either fit into this box or that box, and I know that the human mind works like this, and it's for it helps the brain function so that we can categorize things. But at the same time, I think it is vital to see things when it comes to people. It's life. It's universal. So you cannot divide it into this or that. Just because you're brought up in this way, in that place, doesn't mean that you are less of a life or more of a life. And that's fundamentally what the duality comes to as a one thing. And then you cannot, nobody should be put in a position to take life away. Nobody's more, or nobody should have that kind of nobody has that superiority.
And it's the same with, like you're saying, like taking that, having that personal authority to kind of, look at yourself as somehow superior based on your gender, your color, your your sexual preferences, whatever it is, your gender identity. Like, we're all equal. There is just what, like, in this whole, Black Lives Matter thing, people have been pointing out that there are not many races. There's just the human race. And I agree with that, And it's the same with the Me Too movement, with the gender, with the pay gap, with just gender equality. I'm huge on that. Like, I'm big on gender equality, especially when it comes to music, because that's close to my heart. I feel like we're light years away from any sort of equality when it comes to the genders, and especially when it comes to, just visibility when it comes to the music scene and stuff like that. And it's the same as saying, like, I've had, African American people, joking about my paleness, it's something that someone who is defensive would say. And it's the same as someone, like a man who is like let's say like a white, middle-aged, privileged man would say, well, I've had someone pick before me just because they're a woman. Well, you guys have been picked first for centuries. So it's just like...
There are levels to it,
Yeah, there are levels to it. And I think, when it comes to, just aiming for and fighting for equality, whether it be, just racial equality, gender equality, I think we just need to kind of set our own thing aside and just be like, okay, here's the cost, and we're all gonna work, together to reach some sort of equality on this cost. That doesn't, my personal experiences don't necessarily, have to affect that. Let's just be in on it together. It's like you were saying, like, well, everybody dies. Well, yeah, they do. It doesn't minimize your pain.
Yeah, but there needs to be that conversation. That conversation needs to be had, and also then that in many people that creates necessary awareness that not necessarily there. I mean, lots of people, even in the States, just just turn around and they prefer to ignore things. But now when it's in your face, you can have that awareness, you can have that conversation, and then become more conscious of what's happening, and through that have the individual responsibility to do what is necessary, to have like responsibility in a way that you have the also ability to respond to what's happening around you, and to always do it with compassion and with this kind of motherly love that like for everybody. I think that is essential. But I hope this time around this brings change, and it seems like it's gonna be a year of lots of turmoil, but
Yeah.
but so far, in spite of all the pain and suffering, I think that it's also gonna eventually bring us to a more positive space.
Oh, definitely.
It's gonna bring us to a new level of consciousness in a way where things can be better for everyone. At least I hope.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
so I hope even if we're not there, that in spirit we support this, and I hope there is a positive outcome, and we see.
Yeah,
see
well,
what
I'm
will
happy
say.
for the planet. People are staying home. They're not like, out in their cars. They're not like on cruise ships or like airplanes. So I'm happy for the planet.
Not as many emissions. Yeah, for sure.
No, cleaner air for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's enough for today. We've covered quite a few topics, but thanks a lot for making the time. Thanks a lot for
My
joining,
pleasure.
and it's been lovely chatting with you. Alright guys, I hope you found this useful and enjoyable, and thanks again to Greta for taking the time to share her unique perspective with us. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also click that bell icon so that you never miss a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.